The Harvest Festival. I'm Alex, and I love discovering hidden gems on road trips. Last fall, I decided to take a detour through the Midwest to explore some lesser-known towns. One crisp October evening, I found myself driving through Indiana when I saw a sign for Harvest Festival in Green Hollow, all welcome. It sounded like a perfect way to stretch my legs and enjoy some local festivities. As I entered Green Hollow, I was charmed by the picturesque town. It was decorated for autumn, with pumpkins, hay bales, and colorful leaves everywhere. The festival was in full swing in the town square, with booths offering homemade pies, apple cider, and crafts. There were children playing games, and a band was setting up for a concert. It felt like stepping into a Norman Rockwell painting. I parked my car and joined the festivities. The townspeople were friendly, and I quickly found myself immersed in the cheerful atmosphere. I sampled some apple pie and wandered through the craft booths. Everything seemed perfect, but as the sun set, the mood subtly shifted. The band began to play hauntingly beautiful music, and the townspeople gathered around a large bonfire in the center of the square. I joined them, feeling the warmth of the fire and the festive energy. But then, the mayor stepped forward and made an announcement that sent a chill down my spine. "Welcome, everyone, to our annual Harvest Festival," he said, his voice echoing in the still night. "Tonight, we honor our ancestors and ensure a bountiful year ahead. And this year, we have a special guest to join us in our tradition." The crowd turned to look at me, their eyes glinting in the firelight. I felt a wave of unease as I realized I was the special guest. The mayor beckoned me forward, and the crowd parted to let me through. I tried to refuse, but their smiles had turned sinister, and their grip was firm as they guided me to the center. The band played a slow, eerie tune as the mayor began a chant in an ancient language. The townspeople joined in, their voices rising in unison. I struggled to break free, but they held me tight. The fire roared, casting grotesque shadows on their faces. Suddenly, the chanting stopped, and the mayor raised a ceremonial knife. Panic surged through me as I realized what was about to happen. With all my strength, I broke free and ran, pushing through the crowd and sprinting towards my car. I heard shouts and footsteps behind me, but I didn't look back. I jumped into my car, started the engine, and sped out of Green Hollow. The headlights illuminated the road ahead, and I saw the town disappearing in my rearview mirror. I didn't stop until I reached the next town, where I found a motel and locked myself in the room. The next morning, I reported the incident to the local police. They were skeptical but promised to investigate. I never heard back, and Green Hollow seemed to vanish from maps and local knowledge. The memory of that night haunts me, a reminder of how quickly a charming town can turn into a nightmare. I still enjoy road trips, but I'm more cautious now, always aware that not everything is as it seems. The Stranger in Cedar Ridge. I'm Sarah, and a few years ago, my boyfriend Jake and I decided to take a road trip through the Pacific Northwest. We wanted to explore the scenic routes and enjoy some time away from our busy lives. One evening, as we were driving through the mountains, our car broke down. We were in the middle of nowhere with no cell service and the sun quickly setting. We saw a sign for a town called Cedar Ridge a few miles down the road and decided to walk there for help. The forest around us was dense and dark, but we eventually reached the town just as night fell. Cedar Ridge was small and old-fashioned, with a main street lined with antique shops and a single diner. We entered the diner, hoping to find someone who could help us with our car. The place was nearly empty, save for a few locals who stared at us as we walked in. The waitress, a woman in her late 50s, approached us with a forced smile. "Evening, folks. What can I get you?" We explained our situation, and she directed us to the mechanic's shop at the end of the street. She said the mechanic, Tom, lived nearby and could help us in the morning. With no other options, we decided to wait it out in the diner and ordered some coffee. As we sat there, the locals continued to watch us, their conversations hushed. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and Jake and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. Eventually, the waitress told us the diner was closing for the night but suggested we stay at the old motel across the street. We reluctantly agreed and walked over, our footsteps echoing in the silent town. The motel was run down, with flickering lights and a musty smell. The clerk, an older man with a grizzled beard, gave us a key without a word. Our room was small and shabby, but we were too tired to care. We locked the door and tried to get some sleep. Around midnight, we were awakened by a strange noise outside. It sounded like footsteps, followed by a low, eerie chanting. Jake peeked through the curtains and saw a group of people gathered around a bonfire in the town square. They were dressed in dark robes, their faces hidden by hoods. The chanting grew louder, and we could see them performing some kind of ritual. Jake wanted to investigate, but I insisted we stay hidden. Something about the scene filled me with dread, and I knew we had to leave as soon as possible. We waited until the chanting stopped and the robed figures dispersed. Then, we quietly packed our bags and snuck out of the motel. We walked back to our car, praying it would start, but as we reached it, we saw the robed figures approaching from the forest. Panic set in, and we ran. We didn't know where we were going, but we had to get away from those people. The forest was dark and disorienting, but we kept running, the sound of footsteps and chanting following us. Hours later, we stumbled upon a ranger station. We banged on the door, and a ranger let us in. We told him everything, and he radioed for help. The police arrived and escorted us back to Cedar Ridge, but the town was deserted. There was no sign of the bonfire or the robed figures. Our car was towed and fixed, and we were able to leave the area. The police said they would investigate, but we never heard any updates. To this day, I don't know what we encountered in Cedar Ridge, but it left a mark on both of us. We never went back to the Pacific Northwest, and I still get chills thinking about that night.